Hello and welcome to Frazers, Bants and Brews. This is episode 5. Today we've got Martin from Rwenzori Coffee Company. So hello Martin to our channel.
Hi Fraser, good to see you.
So Martin, I am so happy that we managed to get to do this. This journey started for us in 2018. You came to see me at my old roastery in Carbrook and very, very kindly walked through my door and gave me a bag of coffee that to this day I will never forget. And that's kind of where our journey started. But then recently I did a lovely trip with you to Uganda in October. And today really is about talking about the coffee that you work with, how you do that, and what you see for the future for the country that you work with, the industry as a whole. But yeah, I just wanted to invite you to the channel to kind of talk about that and see what your thoughts and ideas was and just kind of showcase the amazing work that you're doing. So yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
So sorry.
I was just going to say, of course, it's great that our most recent batch of coffee has just arrived, and we've just been doing some sample roasting, and we're going to be cupping it a little bit later.
That's right, yeah.
So that's quite exciting.
So as far as history goes between me and you, like I say, you came to see me in 2018, and you brought me a natural coffee from Uganda. So for viewers, if you don't know what a natural coffee is, natural is where you take the cherry off the tree, and then that's fermented. As a process goes, it's fermented in the cherry as a dry state under the sun or under conditions to put more fruit back into that. And Martin brought me that from Uganda, and that's a really characteristic coffee of Africa.
Yeah.
But as far as Uganda goes, that's something I'd never heard of before I met you. So it was really interesting to see what that was and how it had kind of tasted on the time. So when you came to bring it to me, I was blown away. The quality of that was on par with anything that I've ever tried from Kenya, from Ethiopia, and these are amazing coffee producing countries, but Uganda's not really got that steeped history in grade and quality.
No.
So yeah, really interesting start.
I mean, coffee's been grown there for best part of 100 years, but Uganda's had various problems in the past, and the coffee industry has never really developed to the extent where it could do.
Yeah.
But that is now changing quite a lot, and there's a lot of people recognising the quality of the coffee that is produced in Uganda. But that is only because we are now giving it some really special attention to make sure that the coffee comes through at the highest possible standard. In the last, say, 20-30 years, there hasn't been a good structure in place. The farmers have tended to harvest the coffee early when it's still green rather than red, so immediately you've lowered the potential. It's not been processed well, so the quality goes even lower. Mm-hmm. There have been delays in transport and everything. So when Ugandan coffee has reached the European markets over the last 20-30 years, it's always been regarded, and it has been low quality.
Yeah.
AgriEvolve has been working in Uganda for the last 4 or 5 years. My son Johnny is based out there. He's working with coffee farmers, and just by training farmers how to grow their coffee better, how to harvest red rather than green cherries, how to process it in a positive way, we've seen a massive improvement in the quality of the coffee. So that the inherent quality has always been there. The Rwenzori is a great place for growing coffee. It's just that the processes were poor previously, and now we're just sort of bringing it up to the level of Ethiopian, Kenyan, Rwandan, Burundian. And the results are what you're tasting in your cup.
Yeah, and beautifully put. I think you're right. I think it's you touched on a really good couple of points there. In reality, going from starting from a green state coffee, which we've got here today, but starting from a green state coffee, that just is the end product that we get. But going from a cherry, which is what's on the tree, to getting it to the end product that we receive here, that we roast, the process between the two, that's really important. So if you've started with something genetics wise, or no matter where it's grown, or there are other factors, but if you're starting with something that's really good, you can really degrade the quality, how it tastes, what inherent flavors you're trying to achieve, simply just by the way that it's processed. And if, from what I saw when we went to Uganda, the quality of the genetics is 100% there, that it's steeped in really good soil. If you've got amazing altitude, I think it's 13,000 to 2,000 meters in altitude is roughly where the coffee's grown within the Rwenzori. Obviously the exceptions to that. And having these things in place allow you to have an amazing product, but it's how it goes from that cherry state to the end green coffee that we receive. And that, how you, and like you say, you're a family business, it's between you and your son. You operate generally within the UK, and obviously Johnny, who's in Uganda, he operates out there in Kasinga. Having that connection from going from cherry to green is really vital. And from what I saw two different varieties. People that are working with you are getting paid to bring red cherries to the processing cooperative factory, whatever you want to call that. And you're paying them for the red cherries only. You only accept red cherries because you want to process the coffee from a red cherry trait to a green coffee. That's super important, and that allows you to control that process really, really well. And then you can do things like washed, you can do naturals, but by following those steps really accurately, you can really control that. And that's so important. And that's, in my opinion, that's kind of what makes your particular coffee stand out so much to me, because it's really the bit that makes the coffee is you've got amazing soil, you've got the right altitude, you've got the right rainfall, you've got people that care about looking after their crop so that they get paid correctly, and then you've got people like yourself who are working on the processing side where you're making sure that the coffee goes from a red cherry to a green as best as it possibly can, so you retain that amazing genetics and amazing hard work that these people do. And that's, for me, that's what's really, really exciting about what you're doing. And when you first came to see me, I was blown away. I've never tried coffee like that before, from Uganda especially, but I would even say from Africa. We get coffees from all around the world to try, and we sell a few of them as well. And it really does stand on its own. The amount of customers that we get come through the door and they go, wow, that's so different. That smells like really funky and fruity. And for that reason alone, I think just controlling that method, like you say, is really important.
Traditionally, the farmers would have picked the coffee, as I say, often green rather than red, and then they would have often dried it on the floor, just on the ground. So you can imagine putting it out to dry under the sun, and then rain's coming, so it's all swept back up and put in a sack and put back inside, and then in, out, picks up all the dust and the dirt, and it's just not as proper as it should be. That's not a good system. But when we buy the red cherries, the farmers actually get more by selling us the cherries than if they process it themselves, because you need roughly 6 kilos of cherries to produce 1 kilo of green coffee. And we can give the farmers a better price for their red cherries than if they did all the work themselves, produced the green coffee and then sold it, because the quality would be lower, because they've been drying it and processing it in sub-optimum conditions. They wouldn't get as much for what they had done. So they're better off selling us the red cherries. I
think that's that seeing the trip that we did, what you're describing there is a really good way for the process method and how you control that. You also don't just buy the cherries at the station yourself. You also make an proactive method as well of training farmers how to look after their crop, get the best yield, get the inherent quality that you're looking for. And that was clear to see from seeing farmers with on board working with you and ones that you wanted to work with you. And you can see how, even we saw it in a few places where they were working with you, but they had some leftover stuff that wasn't necessarily high enough grade, or they processed it themselves and it was mouldy on the floor, and they got other stuff that they were selling to you. The difference is massive. And you can taste that. You massively can taste that. Obviously, you're well aware that with what you're doing, you are approaching a very large area. So the area that you operate in is called Kasinga. Kasinga is obviously within Uganda, and that's very close to the border of the Congo. That border is kind of met with an area called Rwenzori. Rwenzori is a mountain range in Africa that has a high peak called Mount Stanley that's, is it 5,000?
Yes, over 5,000 metres. There's permanent snow up there, so we're talking about a mountain that's 20 miles north of the equator.
Yeah, and like you say, you've got a high peak of the Rwenzori, but that's part of the Rift Valley. So the Rift Valley of Africa, and obviously with that cut that goes up, all the moisture and everything's driven to the top, and this altitude, the location of where you are, gives you those optimum conditions. So that area that you operate in is obviously very large. We're in Yorkshire at the moment. We're used to something like the Pennines, but the Rwenzori is massive, absolutely massive range, and that huge area is home to not just one farm. We talk about many.
Yeah. Many thousands.
Yeah.
The Rwenzori mountain range is about 80 miles from north to south. The border between Uganda and Democratic Republic of Congo goes down the middle of the Rwenzori, so Uganda's only really got half of them, but it's still a massive area with tens of thousands of small-scale farmers, each with maybe just 1 or 2 acres. So these aren't sophisticated farmers. They are traditional farmers growing food on their land, but also needing to grow some cash crops. Coffee's been there a long time, and they rely so much on the money they get from the harvest from the coffee to pay for their children to go to school. Whoever you ask, and you say, what are you going to do with the money you earn from growing coffee? It's always to pay for school fees.
Yeah, and that was again clear to see on the origin trip I did with you in October. You very kindly took me to see a lot of the farmers, but you also very kindly took me to see a school.
Yeah.
And it's not a school that we associate with what it looks like in the UK. It's very, very different. And I think forgive me if I'm getting this wrong, but the average school fees, so it's not like the UK where the government pays for it, you've got to pay to send your children to school.
Yeah.
The average school fees for the school that we saw, I think it was at 30,000 Ugandan shillings per term.
Yes.
And there's 3 terms per year.
Yes.
So obviously to make sure that you can send your children to school, you've got money to live, and it's not like necessarily the bills and things that we have to deal with over here, but you need money, is the long and short of it. And if you want to earn money to send your children to school, then you need something that's going to pay for that. Coffee's a cash crop, like you say. I kind of, from being there and seeing what we saw, I saw the benefit clear as day that working with someone like yourself, where you're paying the farmers for the red cherries, and you're doing that processing yourself, you allow them to get paid on the day that they drop that off. It's not like a company in the UK, let's say, where you get your product and you pay for it 30 days later. Yeah. These coffee farmers that pick their cherries when they're ready, they bring them down and they get paid the same day. And I remember many times we sat there and they're waiting in the queue to be paid, but they get paid that same day. Yeah. And they get paid well for what they're doing as well.
Yeah, that's very important that they do get paid. Other companies buy coffee from the farmers, but may only pay them in a few months down the road. So for us, it's very important that they get cash when they bring the cherries to us.
Yeah, and that money that gets released is spent on things like education, which is clearly important. Yeah.
I remember vividly though, one time when I was there, an older lady came along and she had a little plastic bag, and I think she bought just 1.5 kilos of cherries. I mean, we're dealing in thousands and thousands of kilos. Yeah. This lady came along with 1.5 kilos, but they were very nice cherries, and we were delighted to be able to buy those. Gave us some money, it was market day, and she could then go along to the market, buy some meat, take it home for a family. And it is as hand to mouth as that. It's a poor area, and everything that we can do to get more money into the local community, more money into the farmers' pockets, for their families, it's good. It's helping.
And obviously, when I came to Uganda, you made a really good point on the airplane on the way in. I remember it clearly when you said it to me. I'm jealous of you going to see Africa for the first time, because you've operated in Uganda for a long time, not as coffee, but you've known the country for a long time, and so you're used to the country. You know what it's like. I've never been to Africa. And seeing that as a raw country, it was clear to see when you go through the whole country. You start in Kampala, the capital, which effectively, we've discussed this recently, but it's like London, effectively, within Africa. It's like a very central country, but central city. But then as you go into the more rural areas, you see the poverty, effectively. You see the raw Africa of what it is. And then when you come into Kasinga, you see the infrastructure of what's there because of what the operation that you're running. And that's clearly because there's money being fed back into the community. And everywhere you was, when we went around for the day, everywhere that we spoke to all the farmers, they were clearly behind what you're trying to do, and what Johnny's also trying to do into the area, and had nothing but high praise to say about what you do. So amazing to see that. It really was. It was really heartwarming. And I think it's a really valuable thing that I just wanted to really touch on that, because I think that's one thing from the origin trip that I took with you that I took away the most, was that the work that you're doing, while we want amazing coffee on this side, that the ethics of the way that it's processed and the way that it's bought and sold really affects people's lives, because these people grow coffee because it's a cash crop, but it allows them to be able to not necessarily be involved in the process, and you're taking that out of the equation for them, and they're just giving you the raw product, but they're getting paid a lot better than what they used to, and they've got something to be proud of, but it allows them to spend money on things that they probably wouldn't be able to afford before, like children's education, which is obviously so important. And that's effective direct trade. I'm sure you would agree. Direct trade, effectively, we've talked about this before, but direct trade is where we go from farmer, then to you, then you use an export company, and that sends that to the UK. And amazingly, we've just got some coffee coming today. So on the origin trip that we took, we did quite a bit of seeing a lot of the Rwenzori. Just by the way, Rwenzori is that's a word for the mountain range, but that has something that means something in the local language. Is that right?
It means rainmaker.
I love that. I don't know why, but I love that.
Mountain ranges tend to create clouds which create rain, and often people think of Africa as sort of blazing sun and blue skies, and it is like that
sometimes,
quite a lot, but not every day. So a lot of days you get up and it's cloudy again. There's a lot of cloud and a lot of rain, but without that, there wouldn't be the coffee and all the other crops that people depend on. Even 20 miles away, 10 miles, as you move away from the mountains, you go into savanna and dry grassland where very little grows. The game park is down there on the valley bottom, hot and dry, and just grass and a few trees. So
incredible. And that's kind of what I saw on the origin visit. So one of the days, so obviously we saw quite a few different areas, and we went to see quite a few different farmers and to see what they were doing, how they were cultivating, what size of land they were using, and it does vary quite a large amount. It's got some people that have a single acre of land, and then you've got some that may have 4 acres of land, but that's generically the whole. But the coffee that's just arrived into the UK, we've got one of the areas that I visited while I was out with you is Chilingwe, and then we also went to Bogoya as well. The previous coffee that I had from you was from an area called Mahango. Mahango is also another area within Rwenzori, and then you've also got a coffee from Kasinga as well. I like the fact that you have the choice of, while you have the Rwenzori, you have the choice of where they come from, and they're the coffees that have just arrived into the UK. We are intending on cooking them today, so we've got some roasted samples at some point in the podcast today, and the YouTube channel will put that on so we can try them in front. But I really like the fact that even though it's from different areas and the process may be different, they do taste different. We've tried this when I was in Uganda. We tried them coming from different areas, and while they have that inherent quality of the area and the genetics and the process method, they do taste different based on the area. And this goes to like saying like a wine variety. So if you drink wine, you'll have like a Merlot, but which country do you like the Merlot that's growing in? And then sometimes you can have like what we call a micro lot, where depending on where that grape's grown and the soil, you can have one field that tastes one way, but another field that tastes another way. And coffee's no different. I think it's exactly the same. So that's really, really, really interesting. What I probably want to touch on as well was part of the process of working within Uganda. You've not just been like, this is a 4-year project that you and Johnny have been working on, but how long have you been involved in the country then, as far as goes back, and what would you say that's changed in that time from first going and then to now?
I first went to Uganda in 1987, so quite a long time ago. I went on a 4-year contract as an agriculturist, and I worked with a different organisation, but we were looking at agriculture in general. Yes, and I was aware that coffee was being grown at the time, but the state of the country then, there was no independent coffee sector. It was all controlled by the government, so there was not much happening in the coffee world in Uganda. And it's only 4 or 5 years ago that we've been back, because my son Johnny asked to go and visit the project where I worked, and this was back in 2014, I think. Johnny went to visit the project, and he liked it so much that he decided to effectively return and set up his own business along with me, and it started very small. We met up with some coffee exporters in Kampala, and they were very keen that we were based in the Rwenzori area of Uganda, They weren't operating in that area, so it was a case of if we could start training the farmers, encouraging them to improve the quality of their coffee, they would be interested in buying it and exporting it. So that's how it began, really. As you've already said, Kampala is now quite a bustling, modern city, but in the Rwenzoris, little has changed really. When I was there in 1987, there was no mains electricity, and they do now have mains electricity, not entirely reliable.
No,
cuts off
definitely cuts off sometimes, yeah. When it rains, it was what we found, wasn't it? Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. This is life.
Sorry, I'm not used to people calling me.
That's all right. I'm going to keep this in the video.
Well, that's interesting, actually. This is Johnny calling.
Is it really? Well, you're keeping it in the video then.
Hi.
Hey, Johnny.
Hello.
Hi. We're just doing a little sort of video. So Kampala is quite a bustling city these days, but as you travel out, as I think you've already mentioned, the Rwenzori, which is right on the western side of the country, it's not changed that much. People still do a lot of the work, a lot of their farming by hand, digging their small plots with a simple hoe.
Yeah.
Very little mechanisation. Things are still as they were.
Yeah, and really being there, the only real, I would say, modern machinery that I really saw was a factory.
Yeah.
A lot of this is done by hand, as you say.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it seems a very simple way of life, but a magical one as well.
Yes. Yes.
And the views, the people, it's so kind, so lovely, and the very African culture feel to it. It was so different to what we see in the England in the West, but unbelievable. But very much more. And I just wondered, obviously, as my little caption of time that I was there, from what I saw and from what you've obviously said to me before, that nothing really has changed a great deal. But these people are very, very peaceful, very nice people, incredibly kind, very offering. Like for the walk that we took up to Chingwe, when we got to the top, and we got to the very top of the mountain, big fat boy like me, it took me a couple of goes with the altitude, but we got to the top and we got offered some matoke, which is like green banana and cassava and some beans and incredibly kind and warming people.
The hospitality is legend in many ways, and I think it's the same with most African countries and probably most countries throughout the world. It's maybe England where we're a little bit sort of standoffish and aren't so welcoming like that. But yes, the generosity is amazing. The friendliness, the welcome that you get is very genuine, and it's just wonderful. Yeah.
As far as the people go, then, so Uganda is in Central Africa, but it's part of how do I say this? Uganda is basically a tribal country. From what I've learned from speaking to you and seeing the country, it's a tribal country. Approximately, there are around about 30 tribes within Uganda. And to say a tribe, it's kind of like saying an area of Yorkshire. We are the Yorkshire tribe, and we speak Yorkshire. That translates to Uganda. So in Uganda, when I was there, there's a couple of languages that they speak. They speak English incredibly well because that's pretty much their national language.
That's the national language.
Yeah, they obviously got a strong African accent, but they also speak a national language called Luganda. Is that right?
Well, Luganda is the language spoken by the Baganda people, and they're the dominant tribe based around Kampala.
That's right.
And then you've got the Luo from the north. You've got many other tribes as well, but the tribe living in the Rwenzori Mountains at the southern end, where we're based, are the Bekonzo, and so they speak Lukonzo.
Amazing. And I tried to learn a little bit while I was out there. So if I was going to say hello to you as a singular person, I'd say Obachiri.
Obachiri.
And if I was going to say thank you, I'd say Wasinja.
Wasinja. You've remembered very well. That's very good. Well done.
And I can't. And is it to say how are you? Go Wahenyo.
Waheno.
Close. I'm nearly there. Nearly there.
No, it's quite a complex language. And I only know a little bit. Johnny's picked up quite a bit more than I have. Yeah. But that's what you do when you're living in a country for
obviously
a long time.
If you obviously operate there every week.
Yeah.
That's kind of really what I wanted to touch on. Really was just that the people are amazing, and it was so nice to see. And I think what you and Johnny are doing is an amazing project, and I'm happy to support you as a business. I really am. I think the coffee on one point is really great. really stands out when you try it against anything else. It really does stand out. What I also wanted to touch on today was that direct trade relationship, like I said earlier.
Yeah.
If obviously operating within Uganda, and now you're operating 4 years in as a coffee company, what benefit, if any, or none, would you say that direct trade has within the coffee industry? Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it's a bad thing? Does it have room for improvement? Is it used in the wrong way? Has it got
Well, yeah, direct trade is obviously a very good thing, but you can't cut out all the middlemen. Coffee still has to be exported. It has to be all that has to be organised and arranged. So at Kisinga, we can buy the cherries, we can process the cherries, we can hull the coffee and produce the green coffee. But then that has to go into sacks. It has to go to Kampala.
Yeah.
And in Kampala, it goes through the final grading. We've got massive machinery there that we haven't got at Kisinga.
Yeah.
So that grades it, gets the right size, it takes out the defects. We don't hand sort it. In some places, if you operate on a very small scale, you have a very large workforce hand sorting the cherry. But the workers get very little, and it's very, very laborious. And imagine practically looking at every coffee bean. Some people do it that way, but we don't. So the coffee goes to Kampala, where it's graded for the final time, all those defects taken out, and then it's rebagged and then ready for export. So from there, it then has to go on a truck, which takes between 7 and 10 days to get down to Mombasa. Mombasa's on the far side of Kenya. So you're crossing an international boundary, you've got all the customs involved. When it gets down to Mombasa, it has to get on the right ship. That ship then may come directly, or it might go via a couple of other countries before it gets to the UK. So this coffee that we've just received in the last week was actually left Kampala on the 19th of December. So that's 2 months.
Wow.
It should be done a bit quicker than that. There were maybe some delays, but that's just how it is.
That's just the nature of it, yeah.
And often it's taken significantly longer than that. I sometimes hear of Ugandan coffee, and again in the past, that's taken the best part of a year from harvest to arriving in the UK.
Yeah.
That's not good.
No.
And this has taken 4 months from harvest to arrival in the UK, so I think we're getting pretty good. But that's again part of our involvement. That's part of us organising it, making sure that the truck gets there, that it does meet the ship.
Yeah.
But there is a shipping company involved as well. There's an exporter.
Yeah.
So there are all these stages. To do direct trade, you would have to go to Uganda every time you wanted a bit of coffee, go and meet the farmer, shake his hand, give him some money, put the coffee in your suitcase and bring it back to the UK. That's real direct trade.
That's literally it.
Like going down to a farm shop and buying a cut of beef or something, taking it home.
Completely, yeah. That's not practical.
It's not practical, no. So we're doing all that we can to connect you as the roaster with your customers and the farmers. You've been there, you've met the farmers.
Yeah.
We get the coffee from the farmers to you in the most efficient and to the highest standard we possibly can. So, it's as direct as we can possibly make it.
And I don't think you could ask for much more than that. I think the ethics are fantastic behind it. You're dealing direct with the people that grow this. You're making sure that they're looked after financially as best you possibly can, and it makes sure that the market works on both sides. It's sustainable, it's also very traceable, it has some really great qualities about it, and I think it is selective. I'm sure you'll back me up on this, that while we are buying coffee from you, we buy the top percent of what you're getting from. Don't buy the whole of Ugandan coffee, because it comes in at different varieties, and that comes in at obviously different prices and so on and so forth. But I think it's a really, really good way of buying coffee. And I think we have to buy it. We're a roastery. We operate. That's the way that we operate. Yeah. But I think if you can choose to operate in this way and use people like yourself that are passionate, you want to see change within the industry and the country that you're operating in, why wouldn't I support something like that? It's such a great thing to talk about. So we've gone from the very beginning of how we met all the way to now how the coffee comes into the UK. I think it's time to try some.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So we've got, like I say, we've got 3 samples in from Uganda. We're just going to get them all set up on the table, guys. We'll cut this, re-put it in, and then we'll get to see us trying the coffees and see where from there. Right, guys, so we returned to episode 5. We've now got our cupping table set up, and we've got some delicious coffees. This smells incredible. So as I talked about earlier, natural coffees are left within their fruit shell when they get taken off the tree, and Martin does a very good job of turning them into some delicious coffees. They're now here, so everything you see here is what we visited in October.
Absolutely.
Like you say, I think we recognise a few of these beans. So we've got these in a little cupping bowl, so these are just little bowls that we use to test quality to make sure that everything meets the standards. I know already that these are fantastic, but I cannot wait to dive into this. So we've just put a little bit of coffee in every one, hot water, and we use these very pretentious spoons to take a little bit off the top. Never slope. This sounds disgusting, but this is probably the best way to drink coffee when you're trying to sample it. We're not using a brew method to kind of impart any flavour, we just want the coffee, so everything's weighed out exactly, all the water's the same, and all that should shine is the coffee, but these are all going to taste different, so we'll work through these and see what we think of them.
Yep.
So do you want to start that side and I'll start this side?
Okay, those are the washed at the end.
Yeah, so I'll go through that first. Yeah, we've got 3 coffees here in total. We've got Bogoya,
Yep.
Kasinga,
Yep.
and
Kalingwe.
Kalingwe. I will
Yeah.
get that right.
Yeah.
But we'll go through and have a try. So you take a little bit off the top. Wow. So to explain to the guys at home, this is incredibly fruity. Probably the first thing you're gonna taste is just fruit. Which sounds bizarre in coffee, but honestly, it really does. When you try it, you can tell. Wow. So the reason why we've got 6 coffees here, by the way, but we're doing 3 coffees, but 6 different bowls is Martin's got a very fancy piece of kit to roast samples, and you can choose which profile you want to roast at. It's really important. That's kind of what we follow for our profiles for the roastery. So we've done 2 different profiles for each coffee, so we can kind of compare.
Yeah.
How's that one tasting over there?
That's good. I can certainly very strawberry. That's the first flavour that comes through for me.
Oh wow. Definitely, yeah. Wow. That's amazing. The difference between just the roast profile.
Right.
Let me try those.
Okay. Yep. So this profile here, this is a sort of short one. So
Yeah, not a long, very period of time, is it?
yeah. Yep. That's very bright, isn't it?
Very.
Very bright.
Very.
And fruity.
So bright means acidic is a good way of saying that, or very pronounced
Lively,
flavour.
yeah.
Got a lot going on. Yeah.
Yeah, there is a difference, isn't there?
Totally
yeah,
see the
that's sort of
difference.
developed the flavour quite nicely.
Wow. That's interesting because I really like this profile, which is what we've written down here as TW.
Yeah.
For this coffee, for Kasinga,
Yeah.
but I prefer the DSR roast profile for the Kalingwe.
Right.
That's interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
But that's where you, as a roaster, this is the raw material, and then you've got to take it and tweak it and
100%.
do all the magic to turn it into to get the very best out of it.
Yeah, I mean, as a roaster, I have a part to play in the process, but I can only work with the ground of the foundations of what I'm given.
Yeah.
So if it's not has potential as a green coffee, I don't have a great deal of. I can only do so much with that.
Yeah.
So I can manipulate it in certain ways and do profiles to get it to pop in certain different ways, but it needs to be good to start with.
Oh yeah.
And this is phenomenal. Right. So we in the coffee industry use a number, and that's called a cup score. And that cup score tells you the quality of that. People that check that quality are called Q graders. I would say, from dealing with you over the time period that we're at, and I know because we've talked about this, that the average of the cup score of the coffees at this level of coffee that we're buying and what you're producing, they are between 85 cup score, 83 is the lowest I think I've ever heard you say, and 85.5 I think is the highest we've got on the table today. Yeah, that's really good specialty coffee. As far as like the margin goes, some people's definitions are different, but this is high grade specialty coffee is the long and short of it. And you can definitely see the difference between low grade and high grade. That's a massive difference. Wow. So we roasted this today, guys. This was only roasted like an hour ago.
Yes, it's a bit fresh, isn't it? Really? But,
but you can still taste the difference.
Yeah.
totally different profiles. Really do make a difference on this.
Yeah.
So, like we said, this was in Uganda back in October, being picked and processed. It's then been transported over, like we said, and now it's here in Sheffield where it belongs. Proper coffee.
Proper coffee. Are you picking up any preference between the two naturals? Because these are basically processed in similar ways, but just from slightly different areas.
100%, yeah,
right.
100%. This stands out quite a lot. This has got very strawberry, sweet, really pronounced fruit characteristic, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
The roast profile acts in a different way. I think this roast profile makes it a little bit more heavy-bodied, and like you said, this makes it very bright.
Yeah.
I'm finding the Kalingwe a lot more to my liking. It's got that what I call funk. Yeah, I love that. I think it's a really good flavour in natural coffees. It's, I don't know but it's an anaerobic process of the fermentation of the coffee what it goes through when it turns into a natural. I really like that in coffees, and that Kalingwe is amazing. It's a lot clearer. It's not as bang in your face. This is a very light roast that we're tasting here. It's much more smoother, easier to palate. This is bang, really pops in your face. Yeah. And then this is a wash, so it has, to say that's a wash coffee, washed is where they wash all that fruit off and dry it out as a green seed, effectively. That's still got that funk or that fruit quality to it. Yeah. Not as high as this, obviously, but it's still there.
Yeah.
And that tells me that's genetics.
Oh yes. Yeah,
not just a process, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So genetics is like saying for apples, we have Red Delicious, Granny Smith, Pink Lady. Coffee's no different, but we use different words for that.
Yeah.
So in Uganda, what's the genetics up there?
Well, it's quite mixed in many ways because it goes back so long, and we're talking about smallholder farmers who don't keep records necessarily. So a lot of the time, farmers are growing varieties that have been in existence for going back, 80, 90, 100 years.
Yeah.
Over the years, different varieties have been introduced. SL28 and SL14. SL stands for Scott's Laboratories, which is in Kenya. They did a lot of research and development of new varietals. So they were introduced back in the 30s, 40s, and still ongoing. So the predominant varietals are S28 at the higher altitudes, S14 is better for the lower altitudes, but then there are these sort of traditional or heritage varieties that have been just around a long time. Some farmers will have taken cherries off their own trees and germinated them to grow their own, and that then will be a little bit of a mixture as well. So.
And that, to me, is where the beauty of doing stuff like this is, because you don't just get pure genetics anymore. You're getting hybrids.
Yes.
And so that could be because you get a better cook quality, or you could get a better yield of fruit on that tree, or it's just more resistant to disease. And these are problems that farmers have to deal with on a regular basis. But that's amazing, because you've effectively
got complex.
Big time, very complex, which is amazing to see. And you can see, well, even just down to like when we was out in Uganda, you took me to one of the demo farms to kind of see one, like we talked about the education that you give back to the community, and you like use demo farmers to show others how to do stuff. They're doing how they do their farming methods, but you also show me a demo farm of what fertilizer does and what it doesn't do, and if you space your crops a certain amount of space. Yeah. That's another dimension to all of this. Yeah. And this all yields in different flavours on the table. Yeah. So I think we'll have one more go round. So these have been sat a while now.
Yeah.
The longer they're sat, the better they brew.
You get more flavours coming out as it cools down.
So as I said before, Kalingwe is the area that we walked up on the day with the donkeys. The donkeys are in no way in part of the process of making coffee. They don't like eat them and poop them out or anything silly like that. No. They just transport the coffee from origin of where it is down to the bottom. And that's it. Sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, the Bukonzo people don't normally keep donkeys, haven't used donkeys very much. They rely on carrying everything on their head.
Yeah.
The hills where they live are pretty steep, and there are areas like Kalingwe that are not well served by roads. So if you've got a bag of coffee up there and you want to get it down, traditionally you carry it on your back, on your head, in small amounts. But we've brought some donkeys across from the eastern part of Uganda, and just in the last season, I think they've only just arrived when you came.
They've not been there long at all, no.
And the donkeys can carry 100 kilos very comfortably. They're not under any pressure or stress. For them, it's their natural work.
Yeah.
And we went up with 5 donkeys, and so they carried down 500 kilos. Now, if that had all had to come down on the heads and the backs of people,
monumental amount of work.
Yeah. So it's just a little thing, but it's very appropriate for the area, and it's working very well. And it just makes it easier for the farmers to get their product from their homes, from their community, eventually all the way here. And so they come partly by donkey, partly by truck, partly by ship.
Yeah, I think that's amazing, and seeing the whole process going up and trying them today, I'm very. We're going to play with this a little bit more after you've left and kind of decide which one. But for me, my heart is definitely with Kalingwe. I think that's definitely a new origin that I'd like to see in the roastery.
Yeah.
I really value the effort that people take to get the coffee to the table. Really seeing the whole process from back in October to now, it really does. You really start to appreciate how much goes into this.
I think what's also important is that when I go out to visit Uganda, I take a bit of roasted coffee with me back to them, because as you saw, the Ugandan people in the rural areas, they don't drink coffee.
No,
for them it's just a crop that they sell to pay for their school fees. But for them to be able to see roasted coffee in the bags that you use to sell it, that's a very positive feedback for them. They can really then continue to get an understanding that what they're producing, what they're starting with, is something that has very significant value, and that when I show them the roasted coffee, that's the end of that production cycle. So it's being all the way to UK, I take a few bags back for them, and we brew it up and we share it with the farmers, and they're very interested to see what has come out of the crop that they've produced.
And I remember getting asked by more than one, but a few people asked me, like, why are you here? What do you do with this? And I was like, it's coffee.
Yeah.
I was like, well, what do you do with it? And I was like, well, I'm from England, we drink it. Yeah. Like, well, you drink coffee. I was like, but it's just fruit. Well, you can't drink fruit. I was like, no, there's a seed inside, and we cook that, and then once it's cooked, then we drink it. And I was like, what? And because the tea's drunk out there, you see a sort of tea of it, but no coffee at all. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. Wow, what an amazing chat. That was an amazing chat. Thank you ever so much for your time, Martin. I really thoroughly cannot describe how blessed I am the fact that you stumbled across me and we are sat here today.
You're part of the story as well, and it's just great that you're offering this to the good people of Sheffield.
Yeah,
and
hope that
they enjoy it as well.
Before you go, we had our last visitor, which was Callum from Brazil. Yeah, right down here. He put a lovely love heart for me. You're obviously not operating in Brazil, you're operating in the beautiful Uganda that is in Central Africa. Before you would go, would you mind just putting a dot on roughly where you think you are?
Yeah.
And then putting a little inscription. So we've got some pens.
We've got a pen. We'll have to be quick with a pen.
Yeah, we've got a pen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sort of East Africa. So you've got Kenya and Tanzania.
We need the white one, Aaron.
The white one? No.
Yeah. You won't get the white one for that.
Yeah.
Hold on for you.
So Uganda sort of, it's a landlocked country. You've got Kenya, which is part of the one border of Kenya is the Indian Ocean. So that's where Mombasa is. So the coffee goes down to Mombasa and then on a ship around to the UK. But Uganda is the next country in from Kenya. So it's part of East Africa.
Yeah. Do you want to put a little inscription like a line out and put away the signature one, or a little smiley face, or Frazers coffee is the best in the world, something silly like that? Whatever you want.
I'd have to put my glasses on really, but I hope that's a bit of a smiley face.
That'll do. Do you want to put a little signature?
And
then I can steal all your money.
There you go.
Wonderful. What an amazing chat. Well, Martin, Thank you ever so much
Thank
for
you,
your time.
Fraser.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Great.
Before we go, just let you know that Martin's coffee is available on the website. It's the Ugandan Rwenzori. The new one hopefully will be arriving soon. We can follow us on Instagram as well as Martin, Frazers Coffee, and it's also Rwenzori Coffee Company. And check out the website and support the great cause that he's trying to do. Thank you ever so much for your time, guys. Bye bye.
Cheers.